before I begin, I'm going to ask you all to stand up for me.
Ooh.
And I'm just going to have you all get loose, stretch, jiggle your arms, jiggle your legs, get the blood flowing. Alright, thank you. You can all sit down now. You're probably wondering why I had you all do this. Well, according to an article from the Washington Post titled, "Health Experts Have Figured Out How Much Time You Should Sit Each Day," the award-winning writer Bridget Schultz explains how medical researchers claim that prolonged sitting is dangerous for your health. Some researchers even go as far to say that sitting is more dangerous for your health than smoking, which I'll get to later in my speech. But first, let me tell you about my topic. I think we can all agree that college is one of the biggest transitions in our lives, and for many of us, it's our first time in which we are fully responsible for maintaining our health. But sadly, college does not hold high standards for the health of their students. And if you think about it, we spend the better half of our time in college either sitting or just in a stationary position. So to inform you about how the stagnant nature of collegiate education impacts students, I'll discuss the influence of technology, the everyday demands of college, as well as time management. So to begin, I'm going to talk about the addiction to technology and how that leads to the stagnant nature of collegiate education and its impact on students. Today, it seems almost impossible to survive college without a laptop or a computer, especially since our classroom is practically driven on technology. The upside to this is that teachers can use PowerPoints or videos or images as visual aids to reinforce their lessons. But the downside is that as students have equally as much access to technology through our laptops and our phones in the classroom, and it's no secret that we can get distracted by those, like doing other assignments or checking our email, which affects our learning ability. Now how does technology affect us outside of the classroom? Well, I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that we spend a lot of our free time either watching Netflix or scrolling through social media or playing video games. And Cindy Laurenti, a writer and editor for Modern Health Talk, addresses the mental and physical effects of constantly staring at a screen in her 2011 article titled, "How Technology Affects Students' Health." Her research shows that too much screen time can lead to increased incidences in depression, and furthermore, technology is often used as a substitute for real-life interactions, which makes sense if you think about it, seeing as our generation lacks social skills because we're so used to texting or just DMing or Snapchatting people as opposed to like real-life human interactions. And Laurenti also says the physical impact of technology is chronic diseases. Quote, spending many hours a day sitting in class, sitting in front of the computer, and sitting with smartphones and other handheld devices, sending texts, playing games, and reading email can lead to metabolic problems in young adults, end quote. This leads me to my next point, which I'll get back to in a moment. So next, I'm going to tell you about how everyday demands of college lead to the stagnant nature of collegiate education and its impact on students. To follow up on that quote I just mentioned, I'm going to talk about how we find ourselves constantly sitting. In college, our bodies are trained to sit at desks for hours each day. And part of this is due to us no longer having recess or gym teachers telling us to stay active and go outside and just move around. So instead, the most physical activity we find ourselves doing is walking to and from class where we sit, or to the library where we're sitting, or to the lair, to our dorms where we're sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And in an article from the Huffington Post called "Sitting is the New Smoking, Ways the Sedentary Lifestyle is Killing You," Dr. James Levine, the director of the Clinic Arizona State University Obesity Solutions Initiative, talks about how prolonged sitting increases the risk of illnesses such as heart disease and type 2 diabetes. So the reason why we're comparing sitting to smoking is because, like smoking, the long-term effects of sitting cannot be reversed by good habits such as exercise. So in theory, sitting in college is slowly killing each and every one of us. And another effect from this lack of physical activity is weight gain. Unfortunately, we have developed poor habits such as sleepless nights doing homework and eating very easily accessible junk food. Like shout out Main Bowl, shout out Pizza Hut. In an article from Health.com titled 70% of students gain weight during college study, editorial director Amy O'Connor addresses research completed at Auburn University, in which scientists followed the health patterns of over 100 students for the 4 years they attended school. O'Connor states, quote, "A new study finds 70% of college students gain weight and body fat by graduation fueled by late-night snacking, fattening dorm meals, and a lack of exercise." So for those of you who thought the freshman 15 wasn't real, it's very evident that it is real. That's your proof right there. Now, finally, I'm going to tell you about how more demanding schedules in college lead to the stagnant nature of collegiate education and its impact on students. Me personally, I find that time management is one of the hardest challenges of college. And for many of us, I'm sure that we can agree that our high school schedules are vastly different when you compare it to our college schedules. And one of those major differences is that outside of class, we have all this free time to take on other roles and responsibilities, such as like clubs and organizations, or work studies, or just spending time with friends. Now, if you look at a week, we have a total of 168 hours. But if you account for sleeping, classes, studying, eating, and a work study if you have a job, you're left with give or take 5 hours of free time for each day. And you could spend that time either spending time with your friends or joining clubs and organizations. But like I said earlier, we spend a lot of time staring at screens. And in this pie chart, it breaks down those 5 hours that we have each day. It's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. There was a survey taken in 2015 on ages 15 and up. And the three biggest portions, I don't know if you can read it, but the three biggest portions were watching TV, socializing, and playing video games, which are all pretty stationary activities. So basically the point of this breakdown was to show you that we spend over like 90% of our time in college either sitting or sleeping. And now that is what I call the stagnant nature of collegiate education.
Mm-hmm.
So in conclusion, I explained how technology consumes our lives and it results in mental and physical side effects. I also explained how college forces us to sit all the time, which leads to bad habits and weight gain. And then finally, I showed you how demanding our schedules really are in college, and that we actually spend the majority of our time in stationary position. So overall, college has proven itself to be very stagnant due to the technology boom, as well as all the demands that students are faced with on a day-to-day basis. So to wrap it up, I'm going to ask you all to stand with me one more time. And just take a deep breath and get ready for the next speech.